Welcome to the Lady Leadership Podcast, the show that celebrates and empowers women in leadership. I'm your host, Sam McIntyre, and today we have a beauty industry founder and expert and passionate advocate for sustainability and self-care, Briony Kennedy. Welcome to the show, Briony.
Thank you for having me. Bit exciting.
Yes, now you're looking really bright today. For our listeners, Briony's in a really nice bright
pink. I'm very matchy, aren't I? I've got the pink and the jumper and the lips matching.
Beautiful. Now, Briony is the founder and face of Adorn Cosmetics and joins us to share her inspiring journey and the impactful work she's doing in the world of beauty. As a former professional makeup artist, Briony understands the significance of using high-quality products with safe ingredients. Her commitment to the environment has driven Adorn Cosmetics to go beyond producing premium beauty items and embrace sustainable practices. Since its establishment in 2008, Adorn Cosmetics has been a trusted Australian beauty brand backed by real certifications and a dedication to planet and people. Love it.
Yeah, couldn't have said that better myself. Thank you for that introduction. That's lovely.
You probably did say it yourself, Briony. I'm sure I've grabbed it off your website.
Yes, it sounds like that, but thank you. Yes, it's been quite a long journey. Wow, yeah, 15 years now. So not did I expect it to sort of end up really so far. It definitely started as, your typical home-based business. So yeah, lots of learnings along the way, that's for sure.
Yeah, tell me about that. And I think particularly, how long ago did you start in the sustainability piece? Was that right from the get-go?
Yeah, look, for me, I think sustainability started when, and you probably would remember that, and some of our younger people may not, but when recycling first came into play. Do you remember that, when they gave us the second bin? And for me, I was just, as a kid, thought, this is awesome. Like, I loved being able to separate out all the rubbish, and it used to drive my mum nuts. So I think I just had this innate, I don't know, it was just in me to want to do that and do better. And I've always had a love for animals. I've always had bird aviaries and bred guinea pigs. I've had mice, you name it. I was known as having a menagerie in my backyard. And so my entrepreneurial journey, I suppose, started around the same time. I used to buy and sell animals, and
Wow.
I've even got a profit and loss book that I recorded it all in. I would have been maybe about 11 or so at the time. And what I realised was not only that I needed to sell a lot of the offspring, or I'd end up with the next Melbourne Zoo, but I'd also sell the food. And I noticed that where I was buying the food in bulk, if I made it into smaller bags, I'd be able to sell it for more than what I was buying the bulk, but less than, say, what people were buying from the shops. So I had a little business going where I would sell the offspring, package it up with a bit of the food. I'd go around on my bike picking up old cages that people were throwing out in hard rubbish, and then I'd have a cage to put these budgies in. And I even rented out guinea pigs to my friends that were not allowed to have pets rather. So I would, on a Monday morning, collect 50 cents for the rental of the guinea pig. But the guinea pig was they could visit it once a week. And, so really I think I've just got that, I suppose, knack where I've been able to fill or solve pain points for people. And I guess my journey with Adorn, I do have a corporate sort of a sales background. And being a creative and someone who really loves colour, I did the makeup artistry after hours. It was just something that I loved doing. I still colour in to this day. I have a colouring in area in the house, and I just zone out. And I did that with the makeup. And it was probably a year or so before I found out I was pregnant with my twin boys. I purchased a salon to get out of, just get out of the corporate rat race, so to speak. So I was selling car accessories. So I went from that to a salon. Couldn't get any more of a contrast if you tried. And through that beauty salon, I learnt a lot hands-on about what customers were wanting, and that could be for take home, in salon. And so after my journey with that, I not long after found out that I was having my twin boys, and was quite sick for a long time after that, until they were born, basically. And then when they were born about 6 months in, I thought, oh, I want to do something, because you get bored when you've got twin
I
babies,
was
don't
going to
you?
say,
Oh,
I've got
it
twins, but hang on, let me start a business. Yeah.
might be something to do with, in recent years, I've been diagnosed with ADHD, and I think, gee, if I had only knew that a little bit earlier on, a lot would make sense. So I embarked on something for me, but also drawing on what I'd learnt from the salon. And so what I set up was very much like a party plan initially, where I went around didn't think it would work. I thought people wouldn't even be interested, but they were. And I would go to people's homes and teach them how to apply makeup and do their skincare. And so that was
This is sort of around the time of Nutrimetics, because that's how
yeah,
old I am. Yes.
yeah. Oh, well, I remember using it too. What was that orange stuff? Remember the orange apricot one?
Oh, yeah.
And it was so thick, but it was smelt divine. God knows what it did to our faces. But anyway, we digress. So it was, yeah, very much the party plan style. And so what I found that was it worked, and women loved it, because someone was taking the time, especially the more mature women, someone was taking the time to educate them and maybe just restyle what they've done for a long time. Then I got to the point where I thought, well, I'm not really happy with the products that I'm kind of recommending. And in addition to not being happy with them, why am I giving these other brands all of
Yeah.
these,
Yeah.
this money when I
Yeah.
could, it's another source of
Absolutely.
income for me. So I remembered that when I had the salon, I had met somebody who had a manufacturing plant and in Australia, and they produced cosmetics. And I thought, I wonder what's involved with this. Little did I know, a lot. And would I do this again? That's another question. But anyway, I embarked on creating my own range so that I could continue these classes and obviously capitalise on my earning potential.
What year was this? Because this is
2008.
yeah. Yeah. Do you think it was a little bit like little do I know, and I'll just go this next step, and then I'll just go this next step, and then I'll just go this
Yeah.
next. Yeah.
Absolutely. It was definitely not where I look at, in more recent years, you see a lot of startups where it's to getting, investment on board and raising capital. No, that is not what I did, and nor was it something that, even in, as the years sort of progressed, have I ever sort of been interested in either. I've always wanted to sort of drive this myself, obviously with the support of a team around me. But you're right, it was very much, oh, this is working. Let's add another layer and add another layer. And then before I knew it, here I am. Definitely with a lot of, a lot of big bumps along the way as well. But I guess essentially for me, wanting to create something for myself, but doing it in a way that was cautious, that gave me a bit of freedom to still be home with my boys. And like you said, layering what was working as I went along. From a product point of view, though, I was really passionate about creating something that I felt proud and didn't have any guilt using. And for me, what that meant was supporting local.
Yes.
Because it made sense. It made sense to me. I mean, Adorn was very much a pioneer in this space, and yes, it's definitely moved in this direction now, which is fantastic to see so many brands taking up all of these initiatives. But I think the hardest thing for me 15 years ago was we were very much the beginners of this, and it did
wasn't
involve a lot of.
fashionable. It wasn't fashionable. It wasn't trendy. It wasn't.
Correct.
And it is hard sometimes to be that kind of first player. And
The education piece, yeah. Yeah, definitely. And it is, because I think if you've got the passion, though, people want to come along with that because they, you're attracted to positivity, aren't you? So when someone's passionate, I think that makes it a little bit easier. But yes, it's that education that you spend a lot of time and money investing in to get the sales to come through. So, for me, it was
And
definitely a lot harder back then.
yeah. Was it still you were still so you create so you're doing the parties, you then create your own product line, and then you started selling that at the parties. That was kind of this step. And
Yeah.
then did you go into retailers at that point, or then you went online? What was the kind of the next phase?
Yeah. So the progression of that was that I had people calling me for more product, and I was like, "Oh,
Oh, right.
wow,
So you've
must be
gone to the
on." So
parties and it's like, I want you
yeah,
to now, I want to, yep, get that lipstick.
reorder.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, "Oh,
Perfect.
wow, they want to reorder. This is, maybe I'm onto something here." I did attempt to train other people to perform the parties, a bit like, yes, a party plan,
Yeah.
and it worked for a little bit, but it was not really what I wanted to do. I
Yeah.
ended up sort of managing people, and it was too hard. Not everybody had the same sort of level as passion as I did, etc. So thought, well, I can't afford to go into retail because of back then, and even now, the cost to do that and the
Yeah.
margin, because I was buying such small amount of product, I just didn't have the margins to even do that if I wanted to. The other reason I didn't look at retailers at that point, or have I since, is because we are a minimalist company. So if you buy lipstick, that's what you get. There's no box, there's no outer plastic or
Right. Wow.
hygiene. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're very much about producing what you need, and that is it.
Nice.
And so no decorative box.
There's so much packaging, isn't there?
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
let's do the plastic layer, then the beautiful box, then whatever's inside it, and
Yeah.
then like, it's just
Then we're going to write
ridiculous.
on then we're going to print out a piece of paper and et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, it's too
Yeah.
too much. And so I guess sometimes what you can't do forces you into a good place. I think we
Yeah.
often get caught up with, oh, I can't afford this. But definitely a lot of the leaps of faith that I had to take definitely became advantageous for us because I was forced into this area as well. And so online was the only option. And as you could probably appreciate, 15 years ago, there wasn't that many colour cosmetic brands selling online.
Mm.
And if you were, your main point of play was in a store somewhere or a department store.
Yeah. Yeah.
Online was an afterthought. So it was a huge risk, I suppose, back then, but also one that paid off because, of course, we've navigated towards that, and more so during COVID, we were very much geared for that online space where a lot of other brands had to sort of fumble and quickly catch up. But um, it was a thing. I had to do that. I had to look at how can we get the product out to the masses with very limited resources, manpower and money to do it. And
How did you
then I suppose
create? It's a bit easier to create websites these days, but how did you create your first
oh,
website then back in?
oh, Sam, that we did a whole podcast all around. Look,
Because
it was
I've spent 30 years in technology, so I started creating
you,
websites back
you
in the
get it.
year 2000. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And
Oh, I'm surprised I've got a hair on my head. Look, initially we started with a site, I think it was called Drupal at the time, and that
oh
was
yeah,
because we were looking at that party plan situation.
uh-huh.
Then we had to pull it off that, and then we went to Magento.
Oh
Now,
yes,
yeah, and we're still on Magento. I guess,
and you had to upgrade to Magento 2 not too long ago because
mm,
Magento 1 still doesn't work.
yeah,
Yep, you know what I'm talking about.
correct. Yeah, all good fun. Yeah, that's it. And look, Shopify and things like that were not what they are now.
No, God
You
no,
know,
no.
but for that there was a few things we needed to be done custom, and that was kind of the option. Um, would I be on that platform now? Another conversation. But anyway, that's sort of the trajectory that we went on. And it was not an easy one because, of course, you constantly got to figure things out. There was a stage
Yeah.
there where, we did some upgrades and some orders were coming through telling us they'd been paid. The orders weren't paid for. So we'd been sending out stock to people who hadn't even paid, and you name it. It was just a debacle. But you iron these things out as time goes on, don't you?
Yeah. Tell me then about, you've got the twins. I think you've got 3 boys now. Is that right?
Oh,
Yeah. And
sure
so,
do. Yeah, I've got
yeah,
twins. They're 15, and my youngest is just turned 9.
good. You had a bit of a break.
I needed one.
How did that go then? Because there's benefits to running your own business and having a family, and then there's also non-benefits to having your own business and having a family. Tell me how you've worked around some of that.
Yeah, look, I think the first thing, if I could tell my younger self, it would be just to remember you can't be all things to everybody. And I'd also tell myself you can't have everything at one time. You need, in my opinion, to select 3 or 4 areas of your life that you want to focus on, and the other things have to take a back seat. It's a little bit like economics 101, isn't it? It's that opportunity cost of doing something. So, I wish I had have said to myself, okay, you're business owner and mum, and fitness is third, and then friends and family are just going to have to take a back burner outside that at the moment, rather than running myself ragged trying to do everything for everyone. I think it was difficult initially because I had suffered postnatal depression and struggled with that for many years, but I was able to
with the twins or with the
with my twins. So I was still able to obviously function because I set the business up, but I was definitely very high and low. I'd be okay, and then I would have I'd fall in a heap, and so my mental health was definitely not good for the first 5 years of the Adorn brand. So I guess I probably have to pat myself on the back for even sticking through that, to be honest, because it wasn't a great time, and it was really just something I don't think I could have controlled. But then, of course, it was also compounded by the fact that I decided to start a business, and I had twins as well. So,
and was it? Did you seek diagnosis at the time, or did you? Yeah, you did. Okay, well that's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm one thing with me is I think I'm a very open person, and I think if you can at least be open about how you're feeling, it's amazing how much help you can get. So I don't think you should be suffering unnecessarily, and you just don't know who might be able to assist. So that was something I definitely went and got diagnosed for. Not that I knew wrong, but I just knew I didn't want to be that way. And as it turns out, that was what was wrong, and I was put on medication for that. So so what I did was practice being in the moment. And I know it sounds cliche, we talk about that a bit, but it's so very true that you need to do that. And for my survival, and I mean this genuinely, for my survival, I had to practice being in the moment, because what was happening that was, causing these issues more was the fact that when I was working, I was thinking about the boys. When I was with the boys, I was feeling guilty about not doing enough for the job, or, and so I have to very much, zone in to zone out. And so that's something that I've had to practice over many, many, many years. And I'd say I've 98% got it down pat, because otherwise, you are just making yourself ill. And for a lot of people, sometimes the alternative is not a great one.
Look, I think that's a terrific piece of advice, because, you can let your mind run off with what you should be doing or what's happening with that or this or the other thing. And none of it's happened. Well, none of it's like you just creating. And then, like you said, particularly as your children get older, and I've got a 15-year-old as well, it's a little bit easier. There's our challenges, and then they're also finding their own way in the world, and you're not having to dress them, and they're not crying at the drop of a hat, but you've got other issues, and so you do find you get a little bit more of your own self back and of your own time back. And but it's also, I know when I had young children, I would feel guilty for not being there at something, and they don't remember as well.
No, they don't. But I think it's, and I've put a lot of research into this too. And I mean, it's very much, because our infants are born so helpless. You know, we are, I suppose, we're just created so that we react to their noises and to their needs, which is great, because otherwise we'd probably just leave them on the side of the road somewhere at times I don't know, just leave them for someone else. But, you know, that then also causes issues around feeling like you've got to be all about them, and it becomes very hard. And I do, even to this day, still come across a lot of women that will say to me, oh, you know, they may look up to me, and then they'll say, oh, I'm just a mum. And I'm like, hang on a minute, you're not just anything, you know. That's a super important role. But my advice around anything that any woman or man is doing is just do what makes you happy and do what you want, because at the end of the day, you know, someone might be listening to this and they might look up to you because you've got your podcast, or me because I've got Adorn, and that's great to have aspirations, but it's also nothing more important than having clarity around what actually really means happiness to you. And happiness to you may be living off just bare minimum, and, you know, not having a car, living out of a caravan, traveling and living your best life, and you know, or staying at home with your kids, or whatever it is. I feel that we're very much caught in this perpetuating wheel of having to have more, and having to have more status, having more money, having more. And it's like, no, you don't have to. So that would be my biggest, I suppose, message to anyone, is there's so many things that you can teach and divulge around your business journey. But my first one would be, do you even want to do this? Really? Really, do you want to do this?
Yeah, this will make you laugh. I started a beauty business actually, and it was actually it was for beauty professionals to call someone and get them to come to their house to get their makeup done. And and so I created a whole technology platform, etc., to do that. And we signed up about 600 or so beauty professionals.
Wow.
And then I realized I actually don't really enjoy organizing other people to get their makeup done. I like getting my own makeup and hair done at home, but actually doing that for other people is a bit boring. And
yes, that's it.
And but you know, creating that platform and creating that business and getting that perspective was great. And then it actually, so I dragged my husband into this, and you know, so he helped out as we do. That's right. So he, you know, he helped out, or he was working full time in the business at one point, and but he also learned heaps as well. You know, we built a whole website, we built like a platform. You know, we had a whole.
There's something to take away, isn't there?
Correct. Yeah. You know, all those learnings, just learning how to start a business, you know, socials, the whole kind of thing. Like we wouldn't say that it was that we shouldn't have done it, because it actually helped both our careers. And so
absolutely. And that's what, you know, there is also strength in knowing when to let go of something, rather than just to continue on it. On that journey.
That was probably the hardest, was to, and COVID actually was kind of the deciding factor. And we were like, let's just shut it down. So
that's it. But like you said, all these amazing things that you take away from it. And, you know, I mean, even some of the monumental, costly, I won't call them mistakes, because, you know, you could go to uni and have to spend 3-4 years educating yourself around something, and, you know, you've got that debt to pay. So I'm one of these people where I like to just, you know, learn real quick, fail real fast, and just get on with it, because time to me is the most precious thing. Of course, it needs to be, you know, calculated to some degree. But I think that, you know, mistakes are blessings in disguise. They're what not to do. Move on and you know, do something else. And if you find that it's a business or a part of a business that you don't enjoy, either outsource it, which I'm a big believer, employ people that are better than you at certain things. Because if you haven't, you've just bought yourself a job. You've not bought yourself a business or started a business at all. You've just bought yourself another position.
Yeah. And I think that is the thing. When you do start out, you do, you know, you do all the things, and then
you have to,
you have to. And then you go, no, I actually don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to hire someone to do that. And that's the benefit, you know, but sometimes it can be quite some period of time before you get yourself to that point as well.
Yes, well, I remember hiring my first staff member, and the business was being run from our home in Glen Waverley at the time, and to support this little thing that I'd started, I had started doing beauty treatments from home. So I had my double pram, and I was out dropping leaflets saying that I do all these waxing. So I had a real good following with eyebrows, because I used to do a lot of eyebrow waxing. And so I thought, well, if I can get people to come to the house, I'm not sure if that would be a thing, because again, 15 years ago, home-based things were not really a thing.
Yeah.
But people did, and I ended up having a lot of people coming to the house for waxing. So I had one room in the house with a waxing bed, and then I had one shitty little desk in the corner. And so on one day a week, I do all the beauty treatments. I finally could afford to hire one person to help me out. So I gave her the desk, and I would sit on the floor. So I had my own little pile on the carpet, and gave her the desk, and that's how we worked. And then, of course, the day that I had the waxing, well, she went out and watched my boys. So, a lot of the money that I made, it was really just, I didn't see any of it. It was to pay her, so that it gave me time to do something else.
And to work on the business and to grow the business. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And then the next step from there was having enough money to then hire a nanny, because I was really adamant I didn't want my boys in daycare until they were at least one, which I achieved that. So then my money went to a nanny a day a week. So, at least I was still home with them, but I could get some things done. And so that's really how it kind of started. Like, financially, my husband and I, we didn't have a lot of money behind us. We had a home that we had purchased but didn't own outright. So we would do things like dog walking. I had dog sitting. We had people dropping off dogs. Our backyard would be full of dogs. I had one lady, she dropped them off, and one had a nappy on it. And I'm like, what is this I'm getting myself into here? But, you name it, I did it to make money, just to survive and for us to keep going. And so, obviously, as your business gets bigger, then bigger investments required. And we did sell our house at one point there, and invested that money into the growth of Adorn as well.
Wow. And I mean, that would have been a huge decision.
Yes, it was. Again, it was probably a forced decision. It was do we believe in this enough to keep going?
Yeah.
And if we do, then we need more money, because cash flow was just non-existent. As much as the brand has always grown, and that was the difficult thing for me for the first 9 years, I did not take a wage. That's a huge amount of time to not take any kind of wage.
And I think some people getting into their first business kind of don't get that. And it's not something that a lot of people talk about. But I hear it with a lot of people who've had their own businesses, that they're not taking a wage, that they're living off, say, a partner's salary or whatever. Very common.
That's it. That's right. And, so it was supported through my husband working. And as I said, it was doing all these other things as well. So if I had to do a wedding makeup or whatever I could do to make a little bit of money just to make things easy, the business was paying for itself. But there was things that we had to do to invest. And as I said, that was selling our house at the time. And, definitely not an easy decision. But, luckily I had a husband, and still have a husband, that believes in everything I do. And he's been very, very supportive of those decisions, and he's never questioned them, which is great. And so when I hit 40, I was able to buy my first house, because the house that we originally had was my husband's. It was ours, but it was his first. And so I was really proud that, it might have taken me 13 odd years to do that, but it was a proud moment that I was able to eventually get the house back in an area that my husband wanted, and make it all worthwhile.
Beautiful. What are the plans now for, I mean, that's quite the journey, isn't it, really, when you think about it? Like 15 years, I mean, drop your dog off at the city and get some waxing while you're there.
There's a whole new business, Sam. Oh,
That is
make sure you
hilarious.
don't get it mixed up the wrong way around. You get walked and the dog gets waxed.
Well, you said your husband and he leaves having been waxed and like still with the dog. That's what my husband would do that. He'd
Oh,
come back
God,
with
we're
the
opening
dog.
up a whole new session, a whole new podcast. Oh, too
That is the
funny.
funniest thing I've heard.
Oh, God. Look, what's next? What's next? Well, I won't be dog walking or waxing anyone's bits, that's for sure, for a while. So what's next for us is looking at testing some global expansion. So
Yeah.
I think what's amazing at the moment is the marketplaces that have become available over the most recent years, where if you are wanting to dip your toe without sort of spending too much money, because it's a huge investment. And I think people are not quite aware of how different the countries are to us, that they all work very differently.
Yes.
And just
Yeah.
because, the US is the US, it just don't work the same way. So so it's good to see there's so many opportunities now that you can test the water. So something like an Amazon, maybe marketplacer, and also looking at possible distribution overseas. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But we're really getting very, very clear on a concept that I've got for an in-store experience. So that's something that I hope may come to fruition in the next sort of year or two, and quite different to what is available at the moment. Very, very experience based, but definitely in line with that whole sustainability side of things as well. So for me, it's just about how do we get more people exposed to the Adorn brand so that they can feel that love and kindness that we offer when it comes to skincare and makeup, and just help constantly minimize, our impact. That's super important to me. How can we constantly be doing things better and kinder?
Love it. And Briony, so exciting, such fun talking to you. Really a good insight to what it takes to actually create a big business and all the all the challenges in between. And thank you so much for sharing your story with the audience. And I know that people are going to be inspired. And that's what I was going to say to you. What is your favorite products? Tell me.
Oh, okay.
Have you got a favorite?
Yeah, my favorite is the Peachy Sleep Concealer. I have the worst dark hereditary circles under my eyeballs that I look like I haven't slept for 100 years. Probably true to some degree, but this product just hides it. So the Peachy Sleep Concealer is my favorite. And then the Loose Mineral Foundation. It just looks like nice skin. I can't stand feeling products on my face. So that's one of the fundamentals with the Adorn range, is you can't feel the products. So it's really hard, but those two would definitely be my favourites. And the highlighting compact that we've just brought out recently. Love it. It's just so easy. You can do so many things with the 4 colours that are in there. We love multi-purpose. Adorn's very much about, if you buy a lipstick, you can put it on your cheeks, your eyes, get full use of the product rather than wasting it. And one of the things I wanted to say too, Sam, before we finish, is that I think if we've got some women that are listening that are on this business journey, I think you need to learn to be vulnerable. I think that's another thing that we often don't talk about. I think people feel they've got to project this strength and this I know what I'm doing attitude, which, let's face it, most of the time is a load of shit. Most people are treading water underneath and trying to look like they've got their shit together on top. And I think that when you start to be vulnerable, yes, you'll find some people that might take advantage of that, but use your gut. You'll soon be able to sift them off. And then the ones that genuinely care will be able to give you some really good insight as to, what you might need to do, or what you could be doing differently, or just provide some support, because you can't do this sort of stuff on your own. And I think the biggest fear that most people have is the fear of failing. And often people won't start businesses because they're concerned about the failing, not so much the failing, it's
everyone
what
else.
it says about them.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, what does this say about me? I'm a
Yeah.
failure.
Yeah.
No,
No.
the business might not have. The business might fail. Look at these big businesses that are going out of business now, that have been around for a long, long time. It's not always the idea. Sometimes it's not the right time, or the execution's not being right. So there's lots of successful people that have had businesses that have failed, and it's not always the concept or the idea. It's other things around it. So I think you have to learn to put your ego aside. Remember, it's not about you, and it's very much about the product or the service that you're offering. Get good support, accept there might be some failings, and that's okay, because anyone that says they've never failed at anything in their business is absolutely freaking lying, because
Yeah.
it's bullshit. I mean,
Yeah.
there's not a day where I'm not failing at something.
Yeah.
But
Exactly. Yeah.
just put it to side.
Shonda Rhimes, who's the writer of I can't even remember Grey's Anatomy and other shows. She's like, when I'm turning up in one
Oh,
area
yes.
of my life, I'm failing in another place in my life. If I'm turning up for the kids, then I haven't done something at work. If I'm turning up for work, then something hasn't happened with the kids.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And you know what? You can't, like, and this is something I have to teach myself, because as I mentioned to you off air, I have got ADHD. So I'm like all over the place, but I'm not a messy ADHD person. I've got OCD as well. So I'm extremely high functioning with getting lots of stuff done. But I've got to learn, you don't need to spend every minute of the day doing something, because it's not constructive.
So
My
true.
best ideas, and I think most people's best ideas, will come when you give yourself time to step back, step away from your children if you feel like putting them out the front for someone to collect, step away from your business if you feel like you want to get rid of it. Just give yourself 24 hours to just sort of debrief, and I think you'll find the solutions just come to you. You don't have to fill your day with stuff or things to do, and that's something I'm still practicing, and hopefully I get right before I'm retirement age. Not that I'll ever retire. I don't think I could.
Don't think you'll be retiring.
No.
Thank you so much, Briony. So insightful. Absolutely love it. The last piece of advice is true gold. I've been guilty of piling things into my day and, trying to tick lists and all the rest of it. And then if I'm not getting something done, feeling bad about it. So the best advice is, to take a step back, go for a walk, go and do something you enjoy, have some fun.
Yeah. Be proud of not how busy you are. Be proud of how much free time you give yourself.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Samantha. I appreciate it.